Yo, this hot, this the spot. There it is, pod.com. We're interviewing the best comedians, so tune in quick and get your ears receiving them. We talking about life and life to stream right to you, from the microphone right to your home, dude. Side note, this might get embarrassing, but no, don't sweat, yo, cause there it is.
Welcome to the There It Is podcast, a comedy podcast to help you find your inspiration. I'm your host, Jason Farr. Let's do this. Great guest on the episode today. We have singer-songwriter, guitarist, and YouTuber Mary Spender. She is excellent. She's awesome. And it was a really great talk. Because we have a musician on, we will let the theme song play out a little bit so you can hear that. Theme song by Neil Brooks. He did all of the music. He's a very talented musician. I just want you to hear this. Excellent, dude. We've got some fun news for you. I'm going to be teaching a class. I'm going to be teaching it online through the Alchemy Comedy Theater, which is my and girlfriend of the show, Justina's old theater. It's where we met. It's an online stand-up class. If you go to alchemycomedy.com/classes, link in bio, you can find it. It's online stand-up 503, and it's going to be a fun class. It's going to be a good time. There is a prerequisite, though. You have to have some long-form improv comedy training, basically the core curriculum at a theater. And that starts on Monday, September 28th, so check it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a 6-week class, so I'm really looking forward to doing that. Well, on to today's guest. We have a really smashing conversation. Is that pandering? I think it is. But it is a really great chat about music and her YouTube and more. So check it all out. It's a really great conversation. Let's just get right to it. Here's my chat with Mary Spender. So you are first and foremost a singer-songwriter. And you've been playing guitar since you were 12 or 13?
Yes. Yeah. You nailed it.
Yeah, I did a little research before I jumped on. I didn't want to ask you the same boring questions you always get asked. I did read that was your first guitar Pacifica or was it a Squier?
It was a Pacifica 112, yeah. I've still got it, actually. I've got it in my studio with me right now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, a lot of people hear Squier a lot for a good first guitar. You had a not great experience with the Squier. Did you test one? And you were just like, I don't really like the way this feels?
I can't quite remember. I think I saw the reason I started the guitar in the first place and then got drawn to the electric was because I saw a boy at school. He'd just been given, I guess it was I sort of assume it was a red Squier. To me, it looked gorgeous and it looked like a Fender, I just sort of didn't know the difference and saw that. But then when I went to Percy Prior's, which no longer exists, it's a different kind of music store now, in Salisbury, where I grew up, this one, the Pacifica 112, just sort of, I don't know, it just looked really cool to me. And it was kind of like an alternative body shape. It was a bit more sort of jagged and it didn't look like everyone else's guitar, and it was kind of like this matte wood finish.
Okay.
So it just sort of made me look a bit different. I think that's kind of a common theme with my guitar collection, but it was kind of like plain enough that it sort of, I don't know, it sort of stood out in comparison to other people getting shiny, fancy stuff. I don't know really what I was thinking.
I got a Squier a little over 10 years ago, and and since I've heard that Pacificas have a lot of cred for being a good first guitar, but at the time I didn't know about them. I think Ibanez has a good reputation as well. Squiers, yeah. I learned the hard way at the time, at least for 10 years ago, not really the best first guitar. They've improved a lot since.
Yeah, they have improved a lot. I mean, I can't quite remember the state of them 10 years ago, but yeah, I mean, nowadays you can get extraordinary things across the board for very little money in comparison to what was available 10 or 15 years ago when I started, or maybe a little longer now. But yeah, I mean, the Squiers, it's sort of dependent on each guitar as well, so that's the difficulty. And then like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were limited to what was available in store, whereas now people have the internet, and then you have all those reviews, and then you have like YouTube channels dedicated to finding you your first guitar and sort of demoing it for you, and sort of just taking a lot of the problems out of the equation. And then hopefully people are ending up with the better thing, and that also means that companies are trying to improve their low-end guitars because they need to be good now. Like, there's no excuse.
Oh yeah, a good guitar, I've heard a lot of people say a good guitar that you enjoy to pick up and play will help your growth so much. And that's the experience I had, because that's not the opposite. The thing that makes that statement true is the experience I had, because that Squier I had is the only electric guitar I've owned. I just recently bought a new electric guitar after a long time not playing, and I think what sort of aided in my stopping was the fact that I didn't enjoy playing that Squier that I had. So I spent a lot of years not having a guitar, not playing, because I had one that I didn't enjoy to pick up. I can't wait till the one I got comes in. But
so what have you bought?
I bought a GNL Special Edition Legacy Tribute, and from Sweetwater.com, since I'm in America. Sorry, Andertons. I'm sorry. I wanted to buy a guitar from Andertons, but Sweetwater had a nice deal this summer, and it just made the most sense for me to go there with it. But I fell in love with Anderton's YouTube page when I started researching guitars, and I have to say, your YouTube page I found because it came up as something I might be interested in, because I was looking at so many Anderton videos. And the reason I was looking at so many Anderton videos is because when I was researching what guitar to get, they just had the best information to go with on YouTube. So I looked at a bunch of their videos, and then I saw yours and you and they, and some Instagram accounts like Horace Braze or Emily C. Browning's really inspired me to want to play again, and kept that drive going. And I think that's playing a big part in why I recently bought a new electric guitar. So thank you for that inspiration.
Well, you're welcome. I obviously can't take credit for what Andertons have done, but yeah, they gave me an opportunity when I was, at the start of my YouTube channel. Like, I think it was on 3,000 subscribers, and they invited me on, and I did sort of like a mini series with them in 2017, and then got to sort of reunite last summer. But yeah, they've killed it. It's awesome to see what they've done, and they just pump out so many videos. I cannot keep up. But just so much information, so much knowledge there. And and they don't even rely on people buying from Andertons. They're just like, this is a great guitar, buy it from anywhere. But, if you want to support, obviously, their English shop, then by all means. And obviously, I know that they deliver all over the world. But yeah, I mean, it's just impressive. For guitar stores, obviously, were just so limited for so long. And then when the internet happened and when YouTube happened, some of them just, they were not necessarily imaginative enough to think about YouTube. But yeah, Andertons were, so good on them.
Yeah, good on them. I love their videos. They're so great. And I haven't watched yet. Just today I saw that you were in the Captain Meets series. You did that once. And so I have that saved for me to watch later.
I think there are 2 episodes now, actually. One at the very, very beginning, and then one last year. So there's a little bit of a change.
Oh, nice. All right, I'll have to check both of those out. That's the thing. I ended up doing a deep dive. I've done a deep dive somewhat on your page on YouTube and theirs as well. And there's always new stuff to discover because there's so many pages out there, so much out there. I mean, you've been doing your YouTube channel. Well, when did it officially start? Because there isn't an 11-year-old video on there, but it looks like you started regularly posting 4.5 years ago.
Yes, though there are some videos that are now private for many reasons.
Okay.
Just because they're just so embarrassing. I think I actually did. I think I did sort of, without sort of telling everybody, obviously, I think I unprivated a very, very old video just to show people how far I've come. Because I think, people do like seeing that journey too. And I think I was like 17, 18 when I recorded this little video. And I've been posting regularly since, I guess, sort of like the first quarter of 2017. Before that, I did know I wanted to post regularly, but it takes, it obviously takes a lot of discipline to be able to do that, but then also you kind of need to feel like it's working. And I think in 2016, in December of 2016, I was like, I really need to figure out how to release and upload really quickly, just for my own sake and just as an education. So I did a series, I can't quite remember, I think it was called Daily Shred. And I sort of did like a little snippet of me playing guitar or singing. I think maybe it was just guitar, every day for 25 days. And that kind of made me realize that you can, although it was small, you can build a community, because people started waiting, and they started waiting for the upload at, I think it was like 8 a.m. UK time. And I just had like 2 or 3 people just being like, can't wait for tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay. And that kind of kicked it off. And then I went to NAMM 2017 and had a lot of vloggy footage from that convention, and just sort of ended up putting it out. But instead of putting it out within 4 days, I put it out over the next 4 weeks, and that kind of made me sort of realize how to get enough content so that you can plan ahead. However, still haven't learnt my own lesson, and still very last minute, because a week goes very quickly still after three solid years of posting.
Right. But it is smart to, especially for an event like that, to have maybe different things that you plan to do so that you can dole them out through time. Like maybe if you're at an event like that where you can work with some guitars or some amps, that's 2 videos that you can make out of that.
Yeah, or just documenting your day, a lot can happen in those days. A lot did happen. I even tried daily vlogging a little bit at NAMM this year, because I didn't really have any reason to be there for the first time, because I ended up working for Shure microphones. So the last few years I've been sort of a bit more on the business end rather than just being an artist. So this was my first year where I was independent and just there for fun and just hanging out with friends in a little Airbnb. And I just tried daily vlogging, but I managed 3 videos in 3 days. But after that, I was like, no, I don't want to do this.
You mentioned the 2017 NAMM, and for people who don't know, I forget what are the letters stand for?
I think it's National Association of Music Merchants. So much more sort of music product based rather than, music industry based.
So it's sort of, for the unaware, the people who aren't familiar with NAMM, it's sort of like Comic-Con for musicians.
Yes. That's a perfect way to describe it.
Right. A lot of musicians are going there and checking out new gear and finding out new gear, and they'll have famous people show up and demo new gear. And at that particular one was when you got to ask John Mayer a question.
Yes.
Yes, and that little laugh that you gave was because it ended up being an inadvertent controversial situation that you've talked about, and we don't have to talk about at length here. I saw that video a couple of years ago before I was aware of who you were, and had no idea it was you when I did find out about you. And then in one of those deep dives into your YouTube channel, I found out that was you, and you talked about it, and you were saying it wasn't really what you meant. The my take back at the time was wrong too. When I originally saw the video, I thought you were wondering if there was going to be a guitar that fits like a woman's form. And ever since that, and that's not what you're asking, but ever since that video, I have thought, oh, like, has the industry just totally overlooked women? And is this, you know, like, I was thinking of it that way. But earlier this year, you did an interview with Guitar World where you talked about how record labels told you to put down the guitar, which I'm glad that you did not listen to that ridiculous advice. That's not even advice. It's so bad. But I'm not surprised to hear that a woman got that kind of pushback in the music industry. Was that the sort of thing you were trying to get at when you asked John Mayer that question?
I think I was searching for something that no one really knows the answer to, and I was very inexperienced, and by inexperienced I mean I had no experience in terms of like interviewing anyone.
Right, that was your first time.
That was technically like my first interview, which is obviously, it wasn't an interview.
Right, you just accidentally were at the front.
Yeah, well, I was purposefully at the front. I managed to sneak into that press conference. I had no right in being there. I heard John Mayer was in the building, and I was like, oh my God, wherever he is, I just need to be in that room. I need to see him in person. And managed to persuade the PRS staff, who I'm now friends with. I persuaded, I was like, hey, look, I'm here. I'm a YouTuber, budding YouTuber. Maybe I missed out the budding. I'm a YouTuber. I'm an artist. I would love to be in that press conference. And they kind of made it happen. It was a bit more of an exclusive event than like some of their more recent ones, especially when John Mayer's turned up. And I was, because I'm 5'6", so I was kind of aware that if I was at the back, I literally wouldn't see him, because it was all just obviously a room floor. It wasn't staged. And so I was like, oh man, I'm not going to get a good shot. How am I going to, I need to document this whole thing. Everyone loves John Mayer on YouTube, or they love to hate him, whatever. He's, he's going to spark an opinion. Document this. This will be great for the vlog, the fact that I'm just in the room. And then because I was at the front, because I asked some cameramen, I think it was actually the Sweetwater guys, and asked them, I was like, hey, do you mind if I just like sneak in this little bit here where there is no one else standing, but your tripods are like taking up that sort of room? And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I was sort of balanced my camera on the kind of like not gate, what do I mean? The sort of like,
I know what you mean, that little
little barrier. And then he came out and they spoke about the amp, and he played guitar for like 45 minutes or something. I can't remember. Maybe it was half an hour. And then Paul Reed Smith just went, well, this is a press conference, so any questions? And my hand just like, I don't even remember making that decision. Just put my hand up. I had no right in doing so. There were like qualified press people right next to me with press passes for NAMM. And there I was. But yeah, I think I was just sort of asking him, I was like, how do I really, I should have said, how do I separate myself and show up as an artist in this sort of dominated field of the music industry, especially as a guitarist? How do you make yourself stand out? And instead I was like, how do women And I was just like, what am I saying right now? And then he just looked so nervous because I was asking
I think his response was, that is an absolute minefield of a question.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, right. And his position.
Yeah. Oh my God. If you heard that, like, you're there trying to look pretty as John Mayer and trying to come across as a nice guy. And then this woman just goes, how do women, how are they going to be represented? And he's like, I don't know. I'm not a woman. And it's like, obviously he wasn't going to know the answer. And then he did misunderstand, even though I wasn't very eloquent with my question. I didn't ask the question that he then answered either. So it was just misunderstanding, miscommunication. But he did come out with some cool stuff, and he went on this sort of 7-minute, not rant, but he sort of just talked around the subject, just trying to make sure he didn't come across as an arsehole.
Right.
Talking about the Rolling Stone interview and stuff. So yeah, I just didn't mean to do that. And I mean, I met him again in, not this year. Was it this year or was it last year? Must have been last year. Yeah, I mean, they all blur into one.
I know.
I met him last year, and I just, again, didn't have a great interaction with him. And it wasn't his fault. Again, it was me sort of like hoping that he'd remember me, and he pretended to remember me. Like, he was like, yeah, I think I answered your question really well. And I was like, well, no, you didn't. You misunderstood the whole thing. And then I just kind of like backed myself in a corner. I was like, what am I doing trying to meet my idols when they're literally surrounded by people waiting for a selfie? Like, there's no way you're going to have a good interaction with someone. Like, it would be much cooler for me to be able to talk around these subjects and interview him. And to be honest, it's still one of the motivations of like hosting some of the interviews I've hosted on the channel, because it's just like, it's an education in terms of talking to somebody that you might be a fan of, or you know, just learning to think a bit more on your feet about what you're trying to say and what you're trying to ask, and then not just sort of asking a list of questions, but just, you know, picking up on some of the nuances they say. And I think to interview someone like John Mayer, who he is very intelligent, but sometimes like I feel like he wants to sound more intelligent than he needs to. And I feel like I'd say that to him. I'd be like, look, some of the stuff you say online, like, I feel like I'm well read and intelligent, and you know, I can't understand what you're saying. So can we just backtrack on some subjects that you've shared an opinion on, and can we like talk around them a bit more, rather than, you know, just providing a platform for him to give a lecture. There's one interview where he actually kind of reveals himself a bit more with, I think it was Bobby Bones.
Bobby Bones was a very good one. And then there was another one with Beats.
Oh, yeah.
That was another really good one and revealing one. I'm a huge John Mayer fan too, so yeah.
I mean, anyone in the guitar community who like knows what's right for them is usually a fan of John Mayer, whether or not they care to admit it, because they know that his like guitar playing is phenomenal. He's like a student of so many different genres.
Right.
His personal life might not be the best, and like some of his history might not be the best, but I mean, look at any musician from the last 50 years and show me someone with a clean slate, and
for sure,
I'd be shocked. So, you know, whatever.
Yeah, we're not here to defend or criticize him, but also at NAMM, you don't have an opportunity to do a follow-up question to say like, well, that's not what I meant, I mean this. A sit-down interview is a good opportunity for that, and hopefully you will get that. I hope he goes on Anderton's as well. He said that he's interested in that.
I know. I imagine that will happen first, because they have kind of alluded to that actually being a possibility. But yeah, it will be, I mean, he's a busy guy, and then he's also super, super famous, and then he also doesn't need us, you know? So I think it's one of those things where it's like, you have to catch the person on a good day, and you have to like talk to their people and sort of just like keep at it, which I'm not trying to do at the moment. I'm just trying to like do my own thing.
You're doing your own thing. Yeah. When you started doing your own thing with this YouTube page, what was the goal career-wise? Was it to get yourself out there as a singer-songwriter, or was it something else?
I think it was just pure independence. I think that was the goal, and still is the goal, and is very much the situation. Like I feel very fortunate that I can control every aspect of my career. To a certain extent, obviously, there are some opportunities that are just like outrageous, and you have to say yes to them, and you know, they have their own little lifespan. But I think what people forget, particularly musicians, is that no one cares as much as you. So everyone else has their own stuff to do, whether they're a record label, whether they're a management team. Everyone has their own agenda, and that's not a negative thing. So you kind of have to protect yourself and know that you're pretty much the only one that really, really cares about what you're going to be doing and what you're doing day to day. So how do you put that into practice? And for me, luckily, you know, I've mentioned the record labels. So it wasn't like I was going to be signed by those record labels. It was me hustling, literally using LinkedIn, probably like 2012 LinkedIn, when people actually responded to messages. And just emailing like literally the heads of record labels. Like I still have them in my phone book, and I still bump into them sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, how's it going?" And I'm like, "It's going great. Thank you for that advice, and thank you for like not signing me. Thank you." I should literally thank them now. But yeah, I mean, I just wasn't ready. I didn't have a management team, so quite a lot of record labels just don't touch you unless you have a manager. The managers that did try and come on board, I probably just bored them with like, "Hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here? Are you earning your 20%? And I'm just like a little businesswoman, not realizing I was like interested in business. And yeah, ever since I met a friend at that first NAMM, and he kind of became a bit of a mentor, and I didn't really see him that often, but one time we went out on a bike ride, and he just sort of said to me, he was like, "What do you want?" Because I was giving him all these other like business pitches. I was like, well, maybe I'll start my own record label, and I'll help musicians, and I'll run a YouTube channel where I like even started some of these things. And then he was just like, "Yeah, but what do you want?" And I was like, "Well, I want to be a singer-songwriter." And he was like, "Well, do that. Like, do all those ideas, but relate them all back to yourself and build your own thing, because that's when you're going to have more leverage to actually be able to help other artists." So just do that. And ever since then, I'm like, oh, always be streamlining, like always just be seeing your priority and like what makes sense to you. And you just don't have to worry about a team.
What I like about your YouTube channel is that it's diverse. I mean, you have different kinds of videos on there. You have your music and you're covering music, interviews, lessons, vlogging. Many YouTubers are just doing one of those things, which is fine, obviously, but it's cool that you're using it for such various things, and it is educational for people, and in focusing that way, you are already helping people in so many ways. What made you want to approach it that way? Obviously, your mentor gave you that advice, but when you started taking on these different approaches, was it just to streamline everything, or was it because of the freedom you had to do it?
I guess a mixture, because I think I'm probably not the most focused person. So even though I see myself as a singer-songwriter, I don't just sit down and write all the time. Whereas I know other friends of mine really just pursue the craft of songwriting, and they don't want to do video making, they don't want to do their own marketing, they don't want to manage their own schedule. Like, they just want someone else to take care of all that stuff. And some of them have been incredibly successful because of that focus. But for me, I was like, well, I'd much rather have a slow growth sort of channel and career, and be able to adjust at every step of the way, and also show people that I'm not just one thing, because I'm not just interested in one thing. I'm interested in so many different things. And I think the majority of people now are. And the whole idea of being a polymath is so desirable to so many people, because it creates so much freedom. So if you are a photographer or a filmmaker or a musician, or, simply just an instrumentalist of, in one field, you have to now learn how to make videos. You have to learn how to talk to camera. You have to learn to write scripts. You have to learn about social media. You have to learn about business. You have to manage your business. So I don't know, it just sort of felt so natural to me. And I've always been interested in all those other things around music, that when this sort of job started forming and I started seeing other creators that never really had a way of earning money before. So like photographers, like I know obviously there are incredibly successful photographers, but then there are also a lot of not successful photographers, just like filmmakers. There are a very small amount of movies made a year, really, in comparison to how many filmmakers are out there. Same with musicians, like the amount of people actually in the top chart is very finite in comparison to how many musicians are pursuing, those one or two positions. So, but YouTube just seemed like a platform where these guys were just like making stuff all the time and just putting it out and just having control and showing you behind the scenes and showing you tutorials and showing you the finished product and just, teaching. And I was just like, whoa, that's what I want to do. That's the thing. And I didn't expect it to work. But I almost didn't mind if it didn't, because I was like, well, that just makes me happy.
Right.
So do that,
Yeah, do things that interest you, but also it seems like, or at least what I'm hearing, is that these other things that you're interested in, that you're doing, that you're learning so that you can do music and do the YouTube and everything else that you do, it sort of informs your artistry, and your creativity. It's sort of like you did a video that I loved, this Beethoven's Daily Schedule, where you adopted that for a week.
Yeah.
And watching that, it sounds like he was doing a lot of things that supported in some way his artistry. And it sounds like that's what you're getting out of doing the things that you're doing. I even shared that video actually in our newsletter that you did.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I've just been researching establishing routines. And since I'd already heard about you, and then I saw that, I was like, wait, I need to see this. This sounds very interesting. And it was cool. I mean, it's just another type of video that you're doing. But would you say that these sort of things are also helping in other ways than just getting your name out there, but also helping keep your creative juices flowing?
Oh, most definitely. Like, I'm actually working on a video right now about the KISS principle, the keep it simple, stupid, because I have a habit of, you want to do all these different things, but you only have a finite amount of time, right? So it is about constantly streamlining and constantly going back to what's important. And something like the Beethoven routine video was like, I don't just want to make music and videos for the next year. I want to be able to make them for the next 50 years. And I never want to go back to a normal day job, of which I had many, just because it just didn't satisfy me. And I found this thing now, which I'm so adamant to hold on to. So whatever I can learn from other people, whether they're from this century or a few centuries ago, I just think there are ways of being able to put some things in place so that you can consistently create. And I don't think creativity needs to be such like a magical, ethereal thing when so many successful people just continuously create. Like it's just a, sit down and do the work kind of thing, rather than sit around and wait for something to strike you. And yeah, I just think as soon as I learn that, I need to share that. And as soon as sharing that, you just see so many other people being like, man, I really want to take this sort of thing into account. And I want to, I need to go for walks after I work. I need to take myself away from my working space, not just sit at my desk all day and like expect stuff to happen. Like, you need to go and see things, you need to be inspired by stuff, and you need to exercise, and you need to be healthy, and then you need to educate yourself constantly. The most successful people out there are constantly reading around their subjects and learning more information. And I think those are the things that make you happy, much more than having a successful business that's eating up all your time and, earning you however much money. If you can't take a step back and sort of think, right, how is this money or this business going to provide me freedom just to be able to keep doing this, you're going to get yourself in a very, very tricky situation. And I think I found myself even slipping there, because I keep chasing stuff and I'm quite like a competitive person. But there's no one to compete against now. Like I don't see anyone doing exactly the same thing as me. And I same for other people on YouTube, like they're all doing different things and they all have their niches, and that's the beauty of it. And that's why we're all friends. There have been moments where people are like, oh my God, you're in a video with Paul Davids, you're in a video with Leo Maracchioli, you're, in with the Andertons guys, and all these things. And it's like, because you meet these guys and there's literally no competition there. They do very different stuff, and that's brilliant, because like then you guys collaborate and you both build each other up. And I don't think there's ever been a situation in the music industry beforehand where that's actually been as authentic and natural as it is today, because it's always been sort of behind the scenes of like management, record labels, collaborating artists to earn those guys more money rather than necessarily, and then artists are too scared to collaborate with people across labels, or, that person might be too similar to them, too similar sounding. Like, I've just realized, there's enough room for absolutely everybody. So give them all the answers, because I mean, they're not going to take me any further just by me holding on to them. It's just like I can put them into practice all I want. But actually, the beauty of this whole thing is like, if you learn something, just share it with someone else. And then they might learn something, or they might raise their profile enough that they end up being a collaborator. And they might bring something new to the table. So it's just like, it's just one of the things I've just found myself being like, okay, that's the thing that's important, not how many subscribers and not how much money you're earning or how many hits you get. It's just, it just doesn't matter anymore. So getting a bit deep, but that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Well, that's what's inspiring to me. I'm inspired by people who do different things because it's what it interests them. And also when they don't get caught up in how can I be the best or number one or the most successful, because I think that is a recipe. In most cases, that is going to be a recipe for destruction, because not everyone's going to be at the top. I mean, that's just not how life works in any industry, not even just the entertainment industry, but kind of especially in the entertainment industry, because there are charts that gauge these things. And I've said plenty of times that when someone says they're going to go into medicine, people don't discourage them. They don't say, oh, you'll never make it. You'll never be as famous as Dr. Seuss or somebody, like some well-known actual doctor. They don't do that, but they'll do that to a musician. They'll say that to actors. And it's because there are charts for how well a musician is doing. And it is really hard to get there, but it's also really hard to be a doctor. It's really hard to be successful at anything. So why not focus your efforts and your energy and your life on trying to be successful at things you actually enjoy? That seems like the thing that's most important, because that's going to be easier to stomach. I mean, people working jobs that they hate just because, and it's taking them away from the things that interest them. That is really depressing for those people. And success is also different based on the person. You're not you're not saying like, how can I get top of the charts? You're saying, what are the things that I want to do, and let me do them. And you're doing well.
Well, and the whole irony of like people sharing their opinion on career plans, especially, whether you're at school and then university. And I know a lot of disillusioned doctors,
right.
Because a few of my friends have, they followed that path of academia, and because they were intelligent, they were, luckily no one forced me to be a doctor. No, I don't think anyone saw that in me in terms of that caliber of knowledge. And I mean, it's just, what do you want? Because now, obviously, like, it takes hard work. Like, every bit of success, every successful person has worked hard. So if that person is willing to, if they're wanting to be a musician or wanting to be an actor, they're willing to work hard, but it's also like they have to be open enough to be able to not just follow a path where it really is closed off. Like, being an actor, to me, it just feels terrifying. And I've been surrounded by them because of working in musical theatre and then university. And the ones who have done really, really well are the ones that worked hard at a slightly alternative route. So the ones who went down the comedy line, the writing line, and then the sketch show, and then improv, and all these other things that aren't like the traditional acting route. But now you see everyone coming out of these other avenues. I mean, you must see it too in the comedy world. Like, who was it that said the irony about being a comedian is that you end up doing anything but comedy because you end up getting hired as an actor? Because I can't remember. It's like,
I can't remember.
I feel like it's like Joe Rogan or something.
It's true, right? I mean, I think the popular quote that I keep hearing is kind of like the antithesis of that. It's, everyone likes to mention Bill Hicks saying, if you're making money outside of comedy, then you're not a real comedian or something like that. But, that is not what most comedians do, because they all end up acting in something, especially if they, they have to, if they get their own show, they get a sketch show, Dave Chappelle is also an actor by the necessity of having his own sketch show at one point. And you've done some voiceover work, and that was, outside of what you were probably expecting 4.5 years ago, but that's an opportunity that came to you. And why would you say no to something that sounds interesting and would be fun like that?
Yeah, I mean, that was my sort of rationale behind it. When I got the email, I was like, well, I mean, he wants me. He doesn't want an actor. So he must know what I do and how I sound. And I guess those are the best things to be part of, because like there's no CV there. There's no resume. You don't need a headshot for that kind of job. But I think I was talking to someone who was interested in getting into cartoon work, and then I was talking to an actor friend of mine, and I was literally like, go on YouTube, because YouTube is insane. Like, if you start working hard, you never know who's watching. And Matt Malero, who created 12 Ounce Mouse, which was picked up for a 3rd season on the Cartoon Network on Adult Swim, he just happened to be a fan of Dire Straits. And he was like searching them one evening, and he came across my collaboration with Leo, and then he saw my stuff, and he was like, well, she was willing to be a bit like funny there and sort of not take herself too seriously. And then she does these serious interviews, and then she gives advice, and then she plays music, and she sings and plays guitar. And that just seemed to be what he wanted for that role. And yeah, like there was no way I was going to say no.
Right.
I was just like, well, I'll learn on the job. I'm not an actor. So, I mean, it's your fault if I'm terrible.
Yeah, they can coach you. You're used to speaking because of your YouTube.
Yeah, well, he wasn't asking me to put on an accent other than my own accent. So that helped. Yeah, I wasn't being asked to do, incredible hardcore acting, of which I do see as a, complete art form, and I'm in awe of serious actors. But yeah, for that thing, it was just so fun and challenging, definitely. Like, it was, I think I'm not really insecure as a musician because I just know what I want to do and what I want to sound like. But when you're on the other end of someone asking you to repeat a line a few times, the insecurity does creep in when it's like, oh my God, am I getting it wrong this many times? My God. But yeah, I mean, that came from however many hours of putting out videos when I wasn't really earning a penny from it. So it's kind of like, it's just that thing. It's the internet now, just go on it, do your thing, be authentic, and no one can tell you to do any different. It's incredible. It is.
And that is, I think, the best advice to give people is go do your thing. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Who knows who's watching? Who knows what that's going to turn into? Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you and your mentor were biking. You're a pretty avid biker.
Yeah, I like cycling. I'm not very good at it, but I like it.
So a friend of mine who's actually a guitarist, I asked him if he had any questions that he would want. He was like, oh, Mary's going to be on? That's awesome. But he was interested in your cycling. He was curious as to what you love about biking.
I mean, for me, I can't understand why people don't love it. But then I talk through it, and I know that people just think I'm insane for wanting to go uphill, wanting to go downhill, going uphill for a long time. Like, some of the climbs I've sort of got under my belt, whether I'd be able to do them right now is a different matter. But I went to the Alps last summer and just spent 4 days just cycling uphill alone. And then, yeah, like going downhill at 50 miles an hour, like there's nothing better other than performing on stage. I don't feel like there's a bigger high for me. And I don't know, it's sort of like an escape thing. You can go out on your bike for 4 hours. You can take food with you. You can manage your energy for like up to 12 hours, and you can keep cycling for that long a time, and you can cover 100 miles. And that sort of exploration aspect of it, you know, I wouldn't be the one to go and hike for miles and miles. I don't want to walk. I want to be able to, you know, free will sometimes. So there's that aspect, and just being able to cover more terrain, the landscape. And then I don't listen to music because that can be dangerous. So just going out, and it's one of those things where like you can't do anything else while you're doing it. You have to be very, very present when riding a bike. And that's kind of, for someone who's thinking up ideas quite consistently all the time, exercise for me is my break from that, where I literally have to focus on what is in front of me, whether it's cycling up a hill, whether it's picking up something heavy and putting down something heavy. Like, it just takes a lot of my concentration. And yeah, when I don't do it now, it just affects me. It really does. And yeah, cycling is just, it's extraordinary. I need to buy a new bike. I know that's not actually necessary to the whole me getting better at cycling thing, but my bike is a little bit old now and just sort of is a little bit tired, no pun intended. And yeah, I've been thinking about that, but I've got some adventures in mind coming up, but I'll just go off and do them and then tell people once I've done them, rather than, I don't sort of social media that stuff. I sometimes show snippets of me cycling when I've done it, but yeah, it's sort of a nice break. So that's my answer for why I enjoy cycling so much.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, and also, you know, I imagine there are a lot of direct and indirect benefits to kind of turning your brain off for a little bit to your creativity and focusing on this, because it allows you to be present and also gives your brain a rest. But that having to be present probably also helps you musically, you know, when you're trying to find something, when you're writing or when you're on stage and you're performing and there's a lot of stuff going on, it can help you be present and focus in a different way.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that I talk to friends, and when they're sort of saying, and obviously mental health issues are a real thing and different for everybody, but when someone who I know well comes to me and it's just like, oh, I'm feeling a bit miserable, I'm like, well, what have you eaten today? And then they talk about eating absolute crap. And then I'm like, well, have you been outside? Have you gone out exercising? And they're like, no, I haven't done that in days. I'm like, okay, how, you know, you're just like made up of water, right? Like we're not all that different. And exercise and staying healthy, it just dramatically changes a human. So go do those things and then see if you're still feeling rough afterwards. But obviously I know it's so difficult when people can't even get themselves out of bed and all that sort of situation. But just some of my close friends where I know the sort of situation behind their life, it just brings so much joy to people. And it's so easy to forget it and get run down and feel like work needs to be done right there and then, when actually step away, go out for an hour or 4, whatever, and then come back and you'll just be a different person. And, you know, I can only speak for myself, but that's definitely the case with me. So I've recently gone through a hefty work period and neglected my normal sort of healthy habits, and I've just felt awful. So I just kind of I feel the need to share that sort of thing and just remind people, like, it's a constant battle to just, when you're feeling down, remember the things that make you feel good and go do them. Don't just get yourself in a cycle where you spin out of control, because I've been there too. Yeah, it's just constant mental health management, really, being creative or being in any field. Right.
Being out in nature also helps.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the weather recently has been miserable, so I've been miserable. 'Cause
Right.
there have been like 50 mile an hour to like 90 mile an hour winds and stuff. So like, I don't really want to go out on my bike then, because I really will not enjoy cycling in that kind of weather. But maybe when the world opens up a bit more, I can go on more adventures.
Have you had is there a favorite bike ride that you can really pinpoint?
There are a few sort of situations that I've sort of like overcome through bike rides that have sort of left more of a mark than the pretty scenery. So yeah, like I climbed up Sacalobra, which is like a famous sort of Tour de France training route in Mallorca, and that was quite a few years ago actually. I think I even did a Tuesday Talks episode from Mallorca. And it was just it was a trip I just sort of waited to do for years and years and years, and finally got to do it. And it was an hour of solid uphill climbing, but like between 5 and 12% gradients. And I got to the end of that, and it was like the biggest physical challenge I'd ever done at that time. Although I'd sort of done longer rides, they'd been a lot slower and a lot flat. And this was just and the heat and everything about it sort of still just, yeah, I can just still picture it. I can almost picture like every corner, because I was spending a lot of time looking at those corners, cycling up very, very slowly, and with cars like coming up past you and then cyclists going downhill. Like it was a bit of a mad situation. And we got to the top, and I was with some friends and got to the top. I was like 15 minutes slower than them. They're absolute pros. And I was just like, what the hell was that? I've never been sort of so angry whilst exercising, because it was so painful, but then so rewarding, and just like, I'm going to, and like gritting your teeth the whole time. And I know that sounds insane to so many people, but it was just so awesome once you got up the hill, literally. So that one is definitely one of my favorites. And then I took it a little bit easier on myself last year. But yeah, how about you? Do you do any exercise, or do you have a favorite thing that you do?
Well, when I was exercising regularly, what I would do, I'd just go to the gym and I'd get on, it's like an elliptical, but it has more full range of motion. Mm-hmm. I would just get on that for an hour. I sort of had a reaction to that like you have to cycling, to being out and focusing on something else. I could just sort of drift off, and it was really good for my mind to be able to do that, and my body. And then a couple of days I would just do whatever workout the trainers there gave me to work on. Now that COVID is going on, I haven't been at the gym at all, and I've been struggling to have a regular workout routine at home, but there's no online video I've seen that would satisfy me the same way. So I don't know what to do at this point.
It's really hard. I hate working out at home. I bought one of those boxing sort of speed ball bags that are like, they're freestanding, and it sort of will hit you in the face if you don't hit it in the right time. And that's been like the best thing to have in my flat, like my very, very small flat. Just for like, I guess anger management. That makes me sound awful again, but like just during everything, like it's such good fitness. Are they going to open up gyms anytime soon? Because they've opened up here now.
I don't know. If you go to other parts of America, there are gyms that are open, where people are spread out a little bit more. But since New York City was the epicenter of this, it's going to be much more slow going here. I haven't heard anything from my gym, but I was earlier this month was looking for just a kettlebell. It's just like, what can I find? They're all like sold out online. So I can't even do that. There's body weight stuff you can do, but again, it's just not, when I get a playlist in my ear and have a plan, that's when I can sort of zone out in a way that's good for me. But I haven't found that. I haven't found that yet, and I don't know if I'll be able to, since I don't have equipment.
Yeah.
So we've reached the end of the episode, and one thing I love is in your video, you have some videos of showing how to play a song on different skill levels, like beginner and intermediate and advanced, which is great. And I've never seen anyone do that before. My guitar is not in yet, but when it comes in, I want to get back into a routine of practicing, but without having a dedicated teacher or anything, I don't know what sort of approach to take to practicing. So what can you give me and other listeners who are maybe starting out as far as a routine on how to practice and get better and actually see progress?
Don't commit to too much time a day. So don't promise yourself that you're going to do an hour because no one has an hour anymore. So just literally say to yourself, right, I'm going to do 5 minutes. I'm going to sit down with my guitar in my lap and play for 5 minutes. If that's just working on one chord, great. If that's just messing around, perfect. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. And this is obviously for people who've sort of, seen a YouTube video of how to play. There's so many there's a whole library of just like free content for beginning guitar. But the biggest thing is just take it out of its case and leave it somewhere where you actually sit, so that you pick it up, because out of sight, out of mind happens to me all the time. That's why I have all my guitars out in my studio, so that when I just feel that urge, I just pick one up. I don't have to think about it, and just limit all any friction, and just make it as easy as possible for yourself. But don't worry too much about how other people are playing. Just find some songs that you absolutely adore and search for a tutorial on that song and just learn it and just have a lot of fun. Songs are the best way to see a lot of improvement very quickly, because you sort of have a well-rounded approach. Like, you learn the beginning, middle, and an end of something, and you can then perform that, and then people are more encouraging. Whereas just learning scales, that's no fun. That's no fun for anyone.
Right.
They're good to learn later on when you're trying to develop a specific skill, but at first, just learn songs and accompany YouTube videos and artists, and just play along and just rewind. And you don't have to rewind anymore. You can just refresh, can't you? I had to rewind constantly, tapes and stuff. But yeah, just take the pressure off, and then you'll actually stick at it, because I do it all the time. I'm like, I'm going to do an hour a day today, and I'm paid to make music now. And I still fail. I still fail all the time. So I just have to keep it simple for myself too.
Excellent. There it is.
There we go.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Mary.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
It was so great having her on. Really loved that chat. And since we talked, my guitar came in, that beautiful guitar. I've been practicing it using her advice. I'm also going to take some of the classes that she offers on her website, maryspender.com. You should do that too. Also check out youtube.com/maryspender and find her on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Mary Spender. And also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at There It Is Pod. I'm on Instagram at JasonFarPics and Twitter at JasonFarJokes. And don't forget to take my class. My online stand-up class is being offered through the Alchemy Comedy Theater at alchemycomedy.com/classes. Go to thereitispod.com to find out more about us. Hey, we've got links to all of this in the bio. Until next time, be good to each other.
The music for the theme song was created by Neil Brooks. The rap was written and performed by Nick Acevedo. The logo for There It Is was created by Jeff Prater. The There It Is podcast is produced by Jason Farr.